Today, today we are going to be re-reviewing Clairin Sajous, one of my absolute favorite spirits that I've ever reviewed on this channel. As a matter of fact, the first, I think it was a top 5 spirits list I did on the first year I started this channel. This was the top one. Well, really, collectively, like all the Clarons from Spirit of Haiti were the top ones, but this was really the one that got a lot of the credit. Clairin Sajous from the Chelo Distillery, run by Michel Sajous, of course. I adored this stuff, and I think I gave it like a 91. And at the price point of, I think it was $45 at the time. It's now more like 50. Oh darn. I thought this was like the up there with Ray and Nephew Overproof as far as the best QPRs in spirits at the time. That was the 2017 vintage. This is the 2020 vintage. So this gives me a chance. And I think I actually talked about this in my first Sajous review, or one of the first Claron reviews I did. That because these are native wild cane varietals, and because it's naturally fermented, you're using only the yeast on the cane itself, that you're going to see some vintage variation. So now I get to test that theory. We got another vintage of my beloved Sajous to try out here. And just to make this more fun, we're going to do it alongside an aged version. This is Vieux Sajous. This is the 2018 vintage. Not sold in my area, but I was able to get in on a split of this stuff. 2018, aged 5 years. So we're going to get that in glass number 2. And, oh, darn it. I've left my eyeglass. We'll worry about that when the time comes. Sorry, my eyeglass. My dripper, eyedropper. All right, let's get into this. Clairin Sajous, just for review. Yeah, Claron, Distillery Chelo, and it is spontaneous fermentation with the Cristalline cane varietal pot distilled in the village of Saint-Michel de l'Atelier. Sorry, my French is a little rusty, and you know what? My Haitian Creole is even rustier. All right, so let's get into this. Bottled at a very substantial 55.2% alcohol by volume. Off we go. Yes. I mean, so extremely cane forward. Let's start with that. What you have to do at some point in your life, even if you're like me, you're like a loser white guy living in the U.S., go to the South sometime. Go to Georgia, Louisiana, like somewhere down there where they actually grow like cane around. Try to get yourself some fresh cane juice and just smell it and taste it, just to get that into your brain, because this absolutely smells like. It just smells like it smells like cane, or really, it has there's a kind of pastry character to this too, so it's almost like cane juice cake icing. But then you're going to mix around with that like all these savory elements, olives, all the black olives, green olives, mixed olives, brine, sun-dried tomatoes, white pepper, fennel. Little bit of a citrusy note. It's lime peel, but it's not just like the outside, the zest. It's you've taken the entire lime peel and you're kind of smelling the bitter white stuff too. What is that? Some kind of like, there's a minerally note that's hard to pin down, like a I wrote soapstone, but it's really more like almost a soapstone driven rocky dust. Yeah, let's go with that. And so this does have the gorgeous wildflower sort of note, like that just fresh flower kind of thing that I remember loving so much in the previous vintage. It's a little bit more restrained here. But yeah, it's definitely there. I love the flowers in Sajous. And the thing about this is, as I swirl this, it just keeps getting better and better and more open. I mean, this is something where I feel like um, I could grab any, really good appreciator of spirits from any category and sit them down in front of a glass of this. And they may not like it. They may think it's some kind of abomination just because the notes on it are so weird. But I do not think they will miss the complexity that is going on, like the density of flavor in this. There's some bergamot in here now, rosemary. A little bit of, what is that? Something almost like a chemical-y thing. It's not like nail polish. It actually smells a little bit like freshly shined dress shoes. It's got that shoe shine note. I don't even know what that is. Pickled ginger, maybe, as well. Yeah, this is a great nose. This, for me, once you can get over the weirdness of this, like this is naturally fermented, y'all. They are not getting the yeast from this out of a bag or a box they ordered off the internet. This was just growing in the fields. Like they took cane, they crushed it, they got the juice, they let the juice ferment by itself, and then they pot distilled it. This is the most, and then they just bottled what was there. They filtered out a few solids maybe, and that's it. It's the most like pure expression of a product. It's up there with mezcal. Anything else you want to put up against this, but this is like 50 American caches. Okay, I'm gonna stop gushing. And get you some tasting notes. I mean, it's bonkers, and that's kind of the first thing you notice. The flavors on this are very very special and distinctive. And that kind of goes all, that's the general point about Claron. But you start to pay more attention, and it's also it's so balanced, and complete is the word that comes to mind. Let me try a boxing analogy. I've tried boxing analogies before. No, none of you like it, but I'm going to do it anyways. If you have a second, go look up a highlights reel of like Emanuel Augustus. I might be able to think of someone else if I can, but definitely Emanuel Augustus. I think it was a middleweight who did like 70, 80 fights, lost about half of them, but most of those losses were by decision, which tells you something. Anyways, he's this guy who boxes and is basically sort of dancing and wobbling and falling his way around the room. He has the nickname of the Drunken Master. And the first time you watch it, you're just kind of amused at how crazy it is to see someone do this in a professional boxing match. And it's just amusing for the sheer spectacle of it. Like, this is different. But then you start to pay a little bit more attention. You're like, he's got incredible head movement. You watch the longer and you're like, wait, it's not just the head movement. He's got like a weird Philly shell thing going on. He's a crazy good counterpuncher. You're like watching him. Wait, he's not just dancing for fun. He's like getting better positioning. He looks like he can fight like pretty much in any position, at any range. Damn. And so you kind of, the more you start to pay attention, the more you start to appreciate Mr. Emanuel Augustus. There's a similar story here, except probably even more so. Like, at first contact, your impression might just be to laugh and go, "What the hell am I drinking?" But the more you start to pay attention, the more you start to realize this is really, really well-made stuff. If you want to go look up on Emanuel Augustus highlight reel, I will allow it. Pause me, go look that up. Okay, let's get some flavor notes on the table. Much more savory on the palate than it is on the nose. Olives. Lots of the same notes. Olives, salted licorice. Like fried tomatoes, black pepper, minerality that it's not really just soapstone now. It's really like lots of like just roadside dust. Lime peel again, mandarin orange. And a little bit of a cane juice thing kind of bringing up the rear as well. The flowers I remember from the 2017 are still here, but they're much more subtle and subdued. Really, like it's a different form. There's a kind of interesting bitterness on the back end of this, which is, it's very green and herbal. It's like I'm chewing on wildflowers. Maybe some mint in there, some other kind of garden herbs. I mean, the mouth presence on this is just terrific. Like the mouthfeel is good. The mouth length is good. Like it is completely taking over my mouth and throat. The finish just grips and grips and grips. Yeah, just really, really weird, but it's so buckled down at the same time. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna run and get my eyedropper. So as a general rule, I don't do edits unless it's like an emergency. Like if my, one of my daughters has cut her foot off or something. But, this didn't seem like enough of an emergency. Let's give this some water. We'll come back. It's 55% odd, so at least 3 squirts, probably more like 4 or 5. Seems about right. Again, the point with the water is just to kind of put these under pressure. See what happens when you kind of kick them open a little bit. If bad things happens, that's a bad sign. If good things happen, or if it just kind of like stays the same but maybe transforms a little bit, that's a good sign. Moving on to this aged version. Vieux Sajous. There's a couple of these floating around. This is the 2018, aged 5 years. I'll put further information down below, but basically it's the same as this, except the aged. It's a total of 18 casks, malt whiskey and ex-rum. Bottled at 57.5%. And here we go. On the nose. I mean, so first impression is like a cinnamon lime bomb. So really imagine like mixing together a whole bunch of lime juice and cinnamon in like a bowl and then exploding all over your face. And that's really what I'm smelling here. It's not anywhere near as complex as the unaged Sajous. Actually, this is your first like Claron, or especially your first cane juice video. you will be if you're coming from to this at this from whiskey, your temptation will be to buy the aged version because you will think, oh, it's got wood on it, it's going to be more complex than the unaged version. Bracket that impulse. It doesn't always work like that. Buy the unaged version first. See if you like it. Then maybe try one of these as a fun variation. Yeah, just so much like just cinnamon lime. Plus, after dinner mints. Not the red and white ones. I'm talking about like the little pastel colored ones. You know what I'm talking about? Kind of some floral notes, dried flowers, rose water, vanilla, Guatemalan coffee beans, white pepper, actually a fair bit of white pepper. I mean, it's pretty intense on the nose. It's not super concentrated or super complicated, I should say. But there's it's very punchy. It's very narrow, but it's very punchy. So I'm really curious to see what water does. I'm more curious to see what water does to this than to the unaged version because this one is kind of narrow right now on the palate. That's interesting. So the notes are very similar to the nose, and I'll name those in a minute, but it's very, very forward on the palate. Like, there's this big flavor explosion up front, but then it doesn't really reach any the mouth. It doesn't reach any further back in my mouth. The mouth length is a little bit lacking, and the finish is. I wouldn't call it short, but it's shorter than I would have expected it to be based on what I was getting on the nose. Let me try this again. Mouth feels okay, though. It's got that kind of lime or cinnamon muddled in lime juice thing. A lot of black pepper, vanilla, those kind of pastel mints. Just straight up actually mint leaves, rose water, some kind of old school candy, maybe caramel, some coffee notes again that maybe you ground up your Guatemalan coffee beans and kind of put them in your mouth. One more time. Certainly good. Certainly a good spirit. But the mouth length is bugging me. The way that kind of just cuts off right before it hits my molars. And the finish is bugging me. It just kind of like, I mean, the heat, the pepperiness kind of clings on. But everything else kind of falls away pretty quickly, which is not what I was hoping for. But we're gonna add some water, see what happens. It's still good, but right now the unaged version is ahead. So let's give that a squirt of water. It's 57%. 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna do 4.5. Come on. It's still not where I want it to be, but I'm afraid to add more. Let's just let it settle down for a sec. Okay, back to the unaged Sajous 2020 vintage. On the nose. I mean, I was complimenting the complexity on the Vieux Sajous, or the way it kind of leaps out of the glass. And this is just, it's just leaping more. It's more of a leaper than the other glass. Not a whole lot of changes from the unwatered version. It's more floral. There's more flowers coming out, which I'm happy with. If you are a spirits producer and you want to make me happy, give me flowers. Like I'm with the exception of like 1980s Bamor, I'm never unhappy to get flowers in my spirit. Yeah, mostly the same. There's almost like a bacon fat thing going on now. Yeah, the changes that are there are pretty subtle. Let's see what happens on the palate. With water, it's actually the sweetness that comes out. Just this very lush cane sweetness, and it's there in the best possible way. Yeah, like I said, it's crazy. It's bonkers. The flavors involved here are not subtle, and they are. If you were coming to this from whiskey, they're going to be way out of your comfort zone at first. But the complexity, the balance, the the presence of this, I will not I will not have debates about it. Like this is world class. Not a huge amount of change aside from that kick up in like the caney sweetness. Not a huge amount of change from the way it was before water. But oh well. Okay, here's the bad. I don't think this is as good as the 2017. I think I like that more. And I think I liked it more because it had a little bit more floral character to it. The good news is, like, this is still a 90. This is still right up there. And it is still an absolutely phenomenal QPR. Yeah. 90 points for the 2020 vintage of Clairin Sajous. Well done, Michel Sajous. Well done, Distillery Chelo. Yeah, wow. And if you've never tried a Claron and you're curious, go buy this. Give yourself some time because it's gonna take a hot minute, but it's absolutely worth the money they're asking for it. All right, moving on. I only gave this a few minutes, but hopefully that was enough time to kind of give it a chance. Let's put it that way. So, again, when I first came to this, my complaints would be it's a little bit too narrow in terms of the flavors it's delivering, and kind of a shortest, not short finish, but shorter than I would like finish, and short mouth length. Let's see what happens on the nose. Once again, not a whole lot of change on this versus before. It still smells like, all the cinnamon and lime just like shot up and punched me in the face. There's a little bit of like a Grand Marnier thing now. A little like, orange brandy liqueur thing. I mean, it smelled nice before, and it smells nice now. It's just not, there's not a huge amount of range on it. On the palate, So good news, water definitely improves the mouthfeel, which is not really a problem before, but it improves it. It's very grippy. It improves the mouth length. It's now kind of starting to tickle my throat a little bit. And it improves the finish. But the finish is still a little bit short. And the whole affair is still just a little bit it's definitely good, but it's just a little simple. Especially, and maybe I wouldn't be complaining as much if it wasn't next to this stuff. Definitely good. But score-wise, it's definitely in the mid-80s somewhere. I can't find an 86, but let's call this an 85 plus. 85 plus for the Vieux Sajous. So it loses to the unaged version, which gets a 90. And yeah, that's the video. Claron is kind of in an interesting place right now. Vellier and a few other importers, Massal, those guys in Florida who do Same Benevolence. It had that big initial splash, and nerds like me lost its mind. And now it feels like we're kind of in a waiting phase. We're waiting to see, where these things go. Like, is there going to be more coming out of Haiti like this, or are they just going to decide? Well, those Americans, they just want their bourbons and their screwball and whatever. So and we're not going to take the financial risk to bring Claron in. I don't know. But it seems like everyone's like waiting and seeing a little bit right now. I don't know where it's going to go. Anyways, it's a category I adore, and I will. If you put a Claron on the shelf and it's reasonably well presented, like these things are, I will buy it. I just will, because I love the style, and I haven't hit a bad one yet. I really haven't. All right, thanks a lot, and cheers.